The floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Pamela. I really appreciate you hosting this webinar and giving me an opportunity to talk about work that I've been doing um, behind the scenes a little bit for a really long time. And so as I kind of launch or continue to grow my business, I launched Robust Health Advocacy literally last month. So I am brand new. And I am actively working with clients. And so I'm really excited to be able to share some of the things that I've learned over, really more than 2 decades of research and investigation. Yeah, we can go ahead. And I think do you have the first slide?
Yep. This one.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Um, so um, Pamela's already given the introduction. Who am I? I talked a little bit about my business. So I wanted to move into health advocacy and research. So what is that? That is, I wanted to start off by talking about health advocacy because it is a core part of what I do as part of my business. And I also think it's a core part of what individuals need to start thinking about when they are thinking about their health and they are working with their practitioners. So in general, health advocacy is really looking at community or systemic efforts to change healthcare systems and make them more effective, affordable, and accessible. From my perspective, I'm looking at making some of those changes individually, one person at a time. And so this webinar is looking at health advocacy in the form of personal health advocacy and what does that entail? And really, if people are looking at having sustainable health outcomes, how can they do that? How can they learn to engage with their practitioners in a way that helps facilitate that? So I wanted to start off by asking a question because I wanted to get an idea of what personal health advocacy means to people who are attending this event. So feel free if you would like to put your answer to that. Like what is health, oh, I can't speak. What does personal health advocacy look like for you through your personal experiences? And again, feel free to put your comments in the chat because I really am interested in seeing what people have to say about that. And you can also, if you want to unmute yourself, you can also
Mhm.
unmute yourself and say what it means to you. And if the answer is I don't know what it means to me, it doesn't resonate with me, that's an answer too. So just wanted to kind of start off by seeing if people wanted to respond.
Okay. Feel free to put things in the chat, or we can also use the Q&A if you have questions. Um, I'm
Yeah.
sure Angela will answer though as she goes along. But if you want to put some things in the chat, feel free to do so as well.
So I'm going to put you on the spot, Pamela.
Yes.
What does personal health advocacy mean to you? Does it mean anything to you?
Well, I mean, I think it means working on your behalf, in your own best interest, being able to advocate for yourself in the healthcare system, either with your doctor or your hospitals, or whatever pharmacists even. Really, just making sure that you have your best interest and you're advocating for yourself. So that's what it means to me.
That's great. So I'm going to jump into
Mhm.
how I define it in the process of my business and working with clients. So I define it in a couple of ways. So one is by really empowering clients by providing them the skills, research skills, so that they can do their own research and fully understand their own health conditions, specifically using vetted and reliable sources. I know some practitioners don't like their patients to research their health on the internet, and I've had practitioners tell me, like, don't do it. However, there's a lot of valuable information online, and if you know where to go and you go to well-vetted and reliable sources, you can get good information. So that's what I help my clients do. Another thing I help my clients do in terms of health advocacy is supporting them in generating questions to ask their health practitioners to make sure they're receiving adequate information to make informed decisions. So this is also, it serves a couple of purposes. So that's one purpose. Another purpose is that it can help clients assess the quality of their practitioners and determine if they maybe need to get a second or even a third opinion. I've done this many, many times in my many years of living and engaging. I didn't grow up asking a lot of questions. I learned that it became very, very apparent to me that I needed to start doing this if I wanted to have the health outcomes that I desired. The third part of personal health advocacy is helping clients understand that they not only have the right to question their health practitioners, but they have an obligation to ask questions as part of understanding the role that they should play in facilitating positive health outcomes. I cannot emphasize this enough. Our society encourages people to defer heavily to health practitioners, particularly medical doctors, when it comes to our engagement with them. The standard practice is to ask few of any questions. This is especially true of women, and to fully trust the practitioner to provide comprehensive and quality information and treatment. However, several studies have shown that gender and racial biases in our healthcare system lead women, particularly women of color, to receive substandard care that can sometimes be fatal. For these reasons, it is vital for people to be proactive and highly engaged participants in working with their practitioners and regularly assessing the quality of their interactions and treatments that they receive from their doctors and other medical providers. For everyone, especially women, if we want sustainable, common sense answers to our health issues that help us heal, we need to take charge of our health. That means clearly understanding our health conditions and the latest treatments for them, holding our practitioners accountable for answering our questions and being respectful and responsible to us and responsive as well, and doing our part to take daily actions to improve our health so that we avoid developing chronic diseases, most of which are totally avoidable. So I wanted to talk a little bit about why aging is not a disease. And I'm smiling because I think many people think aging is a disease. And the reason why is that if you are over the age of 45, you may have heard from your practitioner or even your friends and family certain comments. If you shared with them a health symptom or challenge you were having, comments like, oh, it's just about getting older. It's all about just getting older, or this is just the result of getting older or aging. But the truth is, many conditions such as joint pain, fatigue, brain fog, and bodily stiffness and immobility issues are not necessarily tied to age, but rather stem from other factors such as chronic inflammation, stress, indoor and outdoor toxins, and chemicals in our food and water that inhibit our bodies from functioning at their best. In other parts of the world, people older than the age of 45 don't experience the level of illness and decline that those of us in the United States do. So I would challenge you the next time you have a pain or a physical symptom, not to automatically assume that it's because you're getting older, but consider some of the other factors that I've mentioned, which I will get into more detail into later. So wanted to jump into the key pillars of health and some of the ways that these can be strengthened, which will really make up the big later chunk of this webinar presentation. You may have seen variations on some of these key pillars of health promoted via social media or your doctor's office or listening to different health webinars or videos. The pillars that I have identified were selected because of research I continually see about how impactful these factors are in promoting quality health that extends well into people aging into their 90s and beyond. Some of these you're familiar with, so I'm not going to dwell too much on them, but there may be a few that may surprise you. We all know about diet and how important it is to eat properly. But the reality is we're inundated with advertising from all sources that basically send us a message about diet. These messages essentially go against our innate biology. And some of the key messages that we get about diet and eating are we should eat high sugar, high fat, low protein, and low nutrient foods because it's fun, right? We should snack all the time. We need to snack. It's really important. The reality is snacking doesn't allow our bodies the time it needs to go through a complete digestive cycle. There needs to be a break actually between meals to allow our food to digest properly and be properly absorbed and utilized. The third one that I see a lot is correlating food with entertainment. Now, I want to note that it's important that eating food is often a social activity. That's natural and that's normal, and it's been that way since human beings have existed. What's not natural and not really good for the body is encouraging people to eat when they're not really hungry, but instead when they're participating in an activity like going to a movie or a sporting event. The bottom line here is eating food is what our bodies must do to function effectively to keep us alive. When we eat the wrong foods at the wrong times too frequently, we make it difficult for our bodies to sustain us, and we can develop health problems as a result. So I'm just going to make this really brief because I have a really long statement, but I want to be very short and succinct. If you want to have a high level of good quality health for a long time, you just need to kind of break away from the groupthink and start really listening to your own body. One of the most foundational and important things you can do is understand when you are genuinely hungry. Learning to know and understand when your body is hungry is the foundation of understanding what it takes to get healthy and to stay healthy. I will briefly talk about, because this is very relevant, emotional and stress eating, particularly during this time. It's very real and it often sabotages our best efforts. I do think one way to try and address this is to, again, regularly check in with your body, check in with your mind, and ask yourself honestly why you are eating certain foods at certain times. And then look for alternative ways to channel your anxiety, your anger, your sadness, and other uncomfortable feelings. I'm going to talk about exercise really quickly. Um, just to say that exercise, I know there are people who hate to exercise. It's hard for me to relate because I love to exercise, but I know there are people who don't like to exercise. And I'll just say, if you're doing yard work, if you're walking in the mall while you're shopping, if you're walking your dog, if you're washing your car, that's all exercise. I think it's really, really good to think about exercise very broadly because essentially it comes down to moving your body. The body was made to move, and we need to utilize that to move our bodies. I noticed personally after a certain age, after 45, I get really stiff. If I'm sitting for a few hours and I haven't moved, or when I get up in the morning and I literally have to start moving, I have to start stretching. It's just a part of aging. Now, that is a part of aging, right? That is a real, I'm saying this because it is really a part of aging. Like as we get older, we do kind of need to move and lubricate. It's when we're 25, it's a really different situation. Our bodies are more flexible, they're more limber, but as we get older, we have to work at it. We do have to work at it and we have to move. The body was made to move. So think about exercise broadly. And also don't think that you have to exercise for an hour a day. Literally, the CDC recommends adults aim for at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity aerobic exercises per week, not per day, per week. That's literally like an 60 minutes, that's like a little over an hour of vigorous exercise and an hour and a half, a little over an hour and a half of moderate exercise. It's not very much. It really isn't. One thing I want to note is that if you're a woman over 50, it is strongly recommended that you incorporate weight training into your weekly exercise routine because it's a lot more effective in maintaining your muscle tone and helping with weight loss if that's your goal. After the age of 50, women go through a lot of hormonal and metabolic changes. And it does often require a change in the frequency and intensity of the way we move. And so that's why they're recommending for women of a certain age to start doing weight training, more weight training as opposed to simply aerobics. Sleep, it is essential to our health. We cannot survive without sleep, but most Americans don't get enough and they don't think they need very much. But sleep, they've shown a direct correlation between sleep deficiencies and several health problems, including heart disease, kidney disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, stroke, obesity, and depression. One of the core things that happens when we sleep is that the brain actively clears waste and toxins from the body through the lymphatic system. When this doesn't happen, because we're not getting enough sleep, our brains cannot clear out these toxins, and we are much more susceptible to degenerative diseases like dementia and Alzheimer's. It's not only how much sleep, but when we sleep that really matters. They have found that the way that our bodies are configured, our circadian rhythms are aligned with the rising and the setting of the sun. So when we are not aiming to sleep a few hours after the sun sets and waking up when it's sunlight, the body knows it and it responds very negatively. Stress management is a huge issue in our society, and this is really tied to inner and societal expectations to do more with less. Specifically, Americans are increasingly working with less money, time, support, family support, empathy, and just basic compassion from our private industries, our government, and our communities. This results in huge amounts of stress, particularly from parents. Parents in America deal with huge amounts of stress. There's virtually no family support in this country. What are some of the ways we can beat that? One way that's immediate is to breathe. Most people don't breathe properly. They breathe from the upper part of their chest. That is very shallow breathing, and it's usually breathing that's associated with anxiety. We need to learn how to breathe like babies breathe. Babies breathe from their bellies. When we breathe from our bellies, we calm the nervous system and we slow the heart rate. Another quick way of reducing stress is to go into nature. There's something about being around trees and plants and animals that calms us because it brings us into the present moment. And humans are intricately connected to nature. So it triggers a very peaceful response in our bodies. The last one that I've mentioned as a way to kind of address the stress is to connect with other humans, which can be very grounding and helpful. Now, the caveat is you have to choose the right person. As we know, some people are not going to help you feel calm when you engage with them. So just make sure that you connect with somebody who you know is going to help you feel more grounded when you're stressed out. The last two are ones that you might not be as familiar with because they are actually, studies have found them to be very connected to health. One is the interpersonal community connections. Studies have shown correlations between loneliness and the development of heart disease and increased stroke risk. And of course, mental health challenges, such as depression and anxiety. We are social creatures. So when we separate from others for extended periods of time, it impacts our bodies, minds, and spirits in ways that we don't even realize. And I think people really felt this very acutely during the COVID pandemic. Even people who are very good at being alone, who like to be alone, still need some level of human interaction for their bodies to function properly and for their minds to function properly. The last one I wanted to mention is life purpose. This is a very evolving area of research, but it's the research that's been done has been very impactful and very interesting. This is not something that typically makes the list of like key health indicators, but I've added it because I've seen and I've experienced this and engaging with people over the years. Research has found that there's a correlation between people who have a life purpose and reduced incidence of heart, circulatory, and blood diseases. One of the most interesting findings in this research is that people with a stronger life purpose had decreased mortality. So literally understanding why you're here, having a focus, having a passion for a job or just hobby or whatever it is, something that really you connect with deeply as far as activities makes a huge difference in your overall health. I note this because I think this is particularly relevant during this time as so many people are being let go from their jobs. So many federal government employees are losing their jobs. And I know from many interviews and just from being a former federal contractor that many people go specifically into government work because it is part of their life's purpose. So I think that this is really relevant, and I do hope that all of the people who have lost their jobs are able to successfully pivot and redirect and find other work and other activities that continue to feed their life's purpose. Now, I wanted to talk about three functions of the body that a lot of people struggle with. These are gut health, immunity, and hormone balancing. So the gut is the core of the body. When I say it's the core of the body, it is the core of health of the body. When our digestive systems are out of whack, many other things can start to not work well. It is the center of our immunity. It is key in keeping our hormones balanced. There are actually hormones that are generated in the gut that are specific to the gut. So in order to strengthen immunity and balance hormone function, we must improve our gut function. Like I said, you can't have good immunity without your gut functioning properly. And for particularly women who are going through hormone imbalance issues, when you get your gut in order, it really is the foundation of eliminating a lot of symptoms like hot flashes, insomnia, mood swings, fatigue, brain fog. And that's just a short list of the many things that women go through during perimenopause and menopause. And I want to note that many times these symptoms are ignored, dismissed, and downplayed, and they leave women feeling like they're losing their minds and they're losing control of their bodies, which neither is actually true. So lastly, I just wanted to talk about some of the things we can do to improve these core areas: our gut health, our immunity, and our hormone functioning and balance. So reducing stress, I talked about some of the things that we could do. I wanted to mention three other things. Related to breathing, there is a particular type of breathing tradition, breathing practice. It is part of a religion, but it just like yoga, it's something that you don't have to do it as tied to a religious activity. And it's related, it's called pranayamic breathing. And for me personally, I found it has significantly calmed me and reduced my anxiety and my stress levels. And it is very, very powerful. And there's different breathing modalities that you go through that you can do. But it is very, I would say it is a very aggressive form of breathing. It's very conscious. But it's done in a way to really stimulate the calming of the nervous system, and it triggers the function of the vagus nerve, which is this huge nerve that runs throughout our entire body, and it really is tied to our nervous system functioning. I also wanted to mention meditation, and not just traditional meditation, which some people really don't like and say they can't do, but I'm talking about things like walking and forest bathing, which is actually a Japanese cultural tradition where you essentially go into nature and you sit in nature and you observe nature and you breathe it in. And I've done it before. I've walked in nature before, but forest bathing is different. It's a much more immersive process. And again, that connection with nature really, really calms the nervous system, calms the body. The last thing I wanted to mention related to stress is somatic trauma release, which is basically, it really goes to the heart of trauma, which is many people think trauma is a psychological response. There is a psychological response to trauma, but trauma essentially lives in the body. Somatic trauma release is about releasing trauma from the body. And there are specific exercises. You can actually Google it. There are specific things you can do to release trauma. Sometimes that's the only way that trauma can really be truly be released. And oftentimes people hold on to trauma from their childhoods, and it continues to generate stress in their lives as an adult. I briefly want to mention some of the ways that you can utilize spices and teas to reduce inflammation. Studies have shown that spices such as ginger, turmeric, cinnamon, black pepper, cardamom, cumin, all of these spices are known to reduce inflammation in the body, particularly in the gut. I've started to cook with spices for almost every meal now, and I've seen a dramatic difference in the inflammation in my body. The last thing I want to mention related to teas is green tea. Green tea has been shown to have strong anti-inflammatory effects because it has polyphenols. Green tea has also been shown to increase healthy gut bacteria. I drink at least 4 cups of green tea per day. So some of the other things that, these are again, alternative methods to reduce inflammation, and I should note pain, because the major cause of most pain is inflammation. So acupuncture has been scientifically shown to reduce inflammation and corresponding pain. Juicing, which is essentially taking food and reducing it into liquid form, has been found to reduce inflammation. Juicing allows nutrients to go straight into the bloodstream. And then by doing that, it provides really core immune strengthening functions, and it enhances gut function. It actually allows the gut to rest, because when you juice, you're bypassing the digestive system. This allows your digestive system to rest. Red light therapy, I can't say enough about red light therapy. It is great. I used it and I continue to use it all the time. So red light therapy basically uses a low laser therapy, and it essentially penetrates into your cells. It goes into your mitochondria, which is the energy producing component of your cells. It is very restorative. It immediately eliminates pain, and it reduces inflammation. The last thing I want to mention is a very interesting but very beneficial activity. It's called rebounding. And what it is essentially jumping on a mini trampoline. It has several health benefits. The ones that are very specific to this presentation are improved heart function. It improves your metabolism. It enhances your digestion. reduces stress, and it also improves your emotional balance and well-being. Those are just some of the benefits. There's several others. Highly recommend rebounding. You can do it for 2 minutes a day, 2 minutes a day, and the benefits are pretty comprehensive. I'm going to briefly mention how to reduce exposure to environmental toxins. I'm just going to go through the list. I'm not going to really spend too much time going over it, but these are very simple ways of reducing toxins that all of us are surrounded by on a regular basis. Very inexpensive things that you can do. Toxins contribute to inflammation in the body. And so this is another way of reducing the level of inflammation. So reducing or avoiding consumption of fast and processed foods. Want to just briefly mention 99% of food chemicals introduced into the United States since 2000 have been approved by food and chemical companies rather than the Food and Drug Administration. These companies are monitoring themselves and they're putting a lot of chemicals in our food. Not good. We should seek to use clean hair products. That would be products free of formaldehyde, phthalates, parabens, and fragrances. Some of you may already be aware that some of the most toxic hair products are hair dyes, hair relaxers, and artificial hair extensions. You should seek to avoid car or home air fresheners because they contain benzene, which is a known carcinogen, formaldehyde, and phthalates, which contribute to indoor air pollution. Instead, try to use indoor air cleaners throughout your home. I'm going to hold up one that I use. You can see it. This costs about $100. I got this through my practitioner. It's very effective and it uses ion to clean the air. Studies have shown that indoor air often contains higher concentrations of pollutants than outdoor air. I think that was a huge surprise to me. You should avoid nonstick pans, pots, and utensils. The Teflon stuff that was like the miracle chemical in the 70s. These things contain PFAs, which are known as forever chemicals. Studies have linked PFAs to various health issues, including immune system dysfunction, hormone disruption, decreased fertility, and increased risk of cancers. Some alternatives to nonstick cookware are cast iron, stainless steel, ceramic, and clay. I'm going to quickly go through these last ones. Try to use dish and clothes detergents that are allergen and scent-free. They're known phthalates as well. Phthalates are known as endocrine disruptors that disrupt our hormones, our hormone functioning. So you should try to avoid them. And your clothes will still get clean without all of the chemicals and the fragrances. I also recommend that people filter their water for eating and bathing, as municipal water supplies put high amounts of chlorine in the water, which can tax your thyroid. And eat organic meats that are free of pesticides and growth hormones. And try to use makeup, perfumes, and body oils that are non-toxic. The ultimate test is if you can't eat the product, if you can't eat the makeup, if you can't eat the body oil or the perfume, don't put it on your skin. Lastly, I just want to share some of the services that I provide, which I've already covered throughout this session. I do provide and teach people how to do medical research. I offer free resources to empower people in learning a variety of ways that they can improve their health that are very cost effective and very easy. Like I just went over, eliminating some products. I teach clients how to ask certain questions. I also provide access to a directory for people to connect with a variety of practitioners to help them with their health. I develop roadmaps to help people identify their current and future health goals while putting clients' needs and priorities first. And I also assist in coordinating multiple interactions and treatment plans for multiple practitioners to help keep clients on track. If you'd like to work with me, please see and follow up with me at the email, phone number, and WhatsApp information provided. Thank you. Just wanted to see if anyone had any questions or comments.
Mhm. Wow, that was a wealth of information. I learned a lot myself on that. And I've definitely been through this transition, probably almost on the way out of the transition, I guess, with
Yeah,
hormonal issues.
yeah,
But gut health has definitely been one that I've had challenges. I had my gallbladder removed last year, beginning of last year, and did some diet changes as a result of that.
yeah,
I'm a really big proponent of kombucha, even though my friends are like, why do you drink that stuff? I was like, because it's for your gut health.
yeah. The healthy gut bacteria.
Yes, you have to have any probiotics, anything
Yeah,
related to that, because the gut definitely has a um, really effect on a lot of things that people don't aren't aware of. Your day-to-day living
yeah,
by having a healthy gut as well. So,
absolutely.
just open it up for Q&A. We have Angela here to address anything that you may have been experiencing or want to know a little bit more about. So, we do have a question here.
Okay,
How can you tell your alternative health approach is working? How can you tell if it's working?
good question. Um, basically the main way is that you feel better.
Hmm.
It kind of goes back to that part when I of the presentation where I was saying, if you want to start engaging with yourself in a way where you literally say, if I don't eat a certain food, how do I feel? If I don't eat when I'm not hungry, how do I feel? If I stop wearing a particular perfume, if I start filtering my water, if I stop using nonstick cookware, how does that make me feel physically and emotionally? And if the answer is I actually feel better, my allergies aren't bothering me as much, I don't have as much fatigue, I have more energy, then those are the clear-cut signs that, it's working. You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah, definitely. Lifestyle changes, especially as you get older. You can't do the same things you used to do,
yeah,
as you can
yeah,
find out. You can't eat the same things you used to eat.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah,
And I have a lot of clients that are physicians, and the one thing that they've said over the years is that we have so many health challenges is because they keep putting additives into our
yeah,
food. Gluten. I mean, if you look back 20, 25 years ago, who was allergic to gluten?
yeah,
Probably not a lot of people, but because of the preservatives that they put in our food, now people are more sensitive to gluten because they're using more of it in our
yeah.
products, in our breads and those sort of things like that.
It's a
So definitely
cumulative
being,
effect, right? It builds on each other.
yeah.
So the air pollution, the
Mm,
water pollution, the bad food, the stress, it
hmm.
all accumulates. And so we're starting to see where people's immune systems are collapsing
Hmm.
because of all of these things that are being piled on.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Any other questions or thoughts from the presentation? Definitely, put that in the Q&A or feel free to come off mute if you want to ask a question for Angela. Very well done presentation, I may ask. I'm definitely going to look
Thank
at
you.
go back to the slides. I have a copy of them to go through and start making some modifications myself on some things that I have do. And that's the thing is, we had conversation earlier is that a lot of times people get into just buying these things because they are cheaper.
Yeah,
And that's what I do as a financial advisor is really trying to help people budget properly for lifestyle changes. So if you want to, do more homeopathic type of health care, that's going to cost money. If you want to eat
mhm,
healthier, that's going to cost money.
mhm,
So really making sure you have these implemented in your financial plan as well with your budget, because you had mentioned these processed foods and fast foods, it's no way that a hamburger or a fat burger is going to cost $1, but, an orange is going to cost you $6.
Mhm.
And that's why people don't eat as healthy because I can go get a fat burger for $1
Right.
versus $6 for produce or some fresh vegetables and things that'll make you healthier. So really making sure you have enough resources as well if you want to make lifestyle adjustments and changes that may cost more money.
Yeah. And I think ultimately it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of the presentation, really affecting changes in systems one
Hmm.
person at a time. So one person learns how to eat better, how to live better, how to change, certain things. They'll tell someone else, they'll tell someone else. And that's how we really can affect changes in our healthcare system, changes in what's being advertised to us and how things are being advertised to us by not buying the products anymore and
Hmm.
not engaging with the advertising. And so that's really what really my bigger goal of my business is to affect larger societal changes one individual at a time, empowering people to take charge of their health, to use the information that they've learned to make changes for themselves, their families, their friends, their communities.
Definitely. I know we had a conversation about, healthcare providers and asking good questions because, it is your health. What if somebody is having challenges with, with their current provider and asking questions? Um, you know, is there a protocol that you would have if let's say your health practitioner is, acting stuffy because they don't want to answer these questions?
Yeah, I mean, I think the protocol, the reality is it depends on the person because if you're on Medicare, if you're on Medicaid, it is much more challenging to switch away
Hmm.
from certain practitioners. That's just the
Yeah.
reality, right?
Hmm.
If you have a more flexible medical plan, it's much easier to just walk away
Mm,
and, look for a second opinion, a third opinion. And so that's really the most frustrating part of what I do, realizing that not everybody can just pivot
mhm,
and just find someone else. However, there are still a lot of things people can do for their own health as far as diet, exercise, reducing stress, eliminating exposure to indoor and outdoor chemicals.
mhm,
And those things, studies have shown diet and lifestyle are the two biggest factors contributing to all of the major chronic diseases that we have right now,
mhm,
including cancer. It
mhm,
always goes back to diet and lifestyle. So if people can really get control of that, like really work on that and really learn to eat differently and to focus on that and make that a priority, it will result in less doctor's visits
mhm,
and less of a need to encounter doctors who may not be particularly helpful or friendly.
mhm. Got it. Another question. In terms of, we talked about, healthcare providers and we talked about insurances. A lot of, these, I guess Eastern medicine or homeopathic medicines are, lifestyle may not be covered under your health insurance plan.
Yeah.
Um, Do you have some insight on what people can be doing in that area?
Yeah, I think it really goes back to what you're saying about looking at your budget and really having someone like yourself help them, if needed, kind of go over their budget and figure out, but based on their health care priorities, based on what they're trying to accomplish, figure out where they can save money, or they can adjust their budget to be able to afford some of these treatments. The vast majority, sadly, the
Mhm,
vast majority of what we call functional and integrative medicine practitioners, they're outside of the conventional
mhm,
healthcare system. The vast majority don't accept insurance. I want to say why, because it's really important to say why. It's not that they're snobs. It's not that they're only interested in serving super rich people, because I was with a functional integrative medicine facility that took insurance
Mhm.
in the Washington, D.C. area for years, and they recently stopped.
Mm.
Sadly, the reason was the insurance companies weren't paying them.
Yeah.
The insurance companies were telling them that their treatment modalities were no good and they didn't
Mm.
accept them.
Mhm.
One of the companies even told this particular functional medicine facility that they just flat out said, get out of our network. We don't want to be bothered with you.
Mm.
So there's like hostility from
Yeah.
the insurance companies. They don't want to engage with some of these facilities that are
Mm.
actually working with people. Many of the people like myself who go to functional integrative medical professionals have had chronic illnesses,
Mhm.
and they tried conventional medicine and it didn't work. They
Mhm.
couldn't get the results that they needed. So we really do need to work on having a healthcare revolution in this
Mhm.
country.
Yeah.
And things are not great right now with our government.
Mm. Yeah.
But I want to be hopeful and say
Yeah.
that, particularly for the next generations, I think that they are much more aligned and attuned to issues of environmental health, global, environmental issues, which are directly tied to human health.
Mhm.
Our planet and the quality and condition of our planet is tied to our individual health. And so I see it in me, I see it as a collective effort to transform the way that we live on our planet and
Mhm.
transform the health of our planet. And in the process of doing that, also transforming our own individual and community and larger global health.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think, like you said, just one person at a time that you have to, go through as well. And I always say to my clients, health is wealth, because
Yeah,
if you don't,
absolutely.
take care of yourself, eventually, things will deteriorate and it's going to cost you much more down the road. So getting the
Absolutely.
assistance that you need, and don't take no for an answer. I know a lot of times people go, well, that's what my physician said, or that's what my practitioner said.
Mhm.
But until you try some alternatives, um, you don't know. And, just because it may be a cost issue and your insurance is not covering it, nothing to say that you can pay out of pocket. There's certain blood tests or panels that
Mhm.
people that insurance companies may not cover, but it will give you all of the different, your DNA on what you are susceptible to in terms of certain diseases. And but that's an out-of-pocket cost that may cost, a few $1,000s, but it is very helpful to know. So a different path or a healing process that you had said, a healing path for yourself. But sometimes people go, well, your insurance is not gonna cover and blah, I'm not gonna do that. Again, health is wealth. So
Yeah,
knowing what you need to do in order to pay for the things that will make you healthier. Because in
yeah,
the long run, it may be more expensive. They always say it's better to do maintenance than to do repairs.
yeah, yeah. And I totally agree. And also on the maintenance side, a rebounder, a trampoline costs $15.
Mhm.
Spices cost what? Less than $1 per
Mhm.
ounce. Exercising costs time,
Mhm. Yeah.
but it's worth it. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of other preventative maintenance things, right, that we can be doing right now that cost very little, but the
Mhm.
benefits are tremendous.
Yeah, exactly. So we're kind of winding down. Any other questions or thoughts or that people want to share before we wrap up? Okay, well, people are a little quiet today.
Just want to say, I just thank everybody for being here. I think everybody who's attended. I hope that you were able to get good information out of this. I hope you learned something you didn't know. Um, and yeah, I look forward to, doing more of these and connecting with
Mhm.
more people. And again, thank you so much, Pamela, for
Yeah.
taking the time to host this and for your great questions. And
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, because it's very important information, and I wanted to make sure people got the knowledge that they needed. And of course, here is the information for Angela, email, phone, and social media contacts as well. This is not a promotion for me, but if people want to engage with at least a complimentary consultation, talk a little bit about how you can integrate your health plan with your financial plan, definitely feel free to give me a call as well. The number is 703-547-8682, and it is jacksonsams.com is my website. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end our presentation. And again, thank you very much, Angela, for the information, and hopefully we'll be able to connect again soon.
all right. Thank you,
All right.
everybody.
Thank you. Okay. I think we're done.